Move over to the hate list for quarterbacks. Brock Purdy on the hate list with that matchup against the Jets. We talked about all the problems, Matthew, with Brandon Ayuk going into this game. It was not a great summer for Brock Purdy. Hopefully, for his sake, he has Trent Williams in full, but we know how good this Jets defense is.
I mean, it's a bad matchup just to begin with, right? Second best pass defense in the NFL last year, the New York Jets, right? The third lowest passer rating allowed last year, the New York Jets, right? Quarterbacks averaged 12.1 fantasy points per game last year against the Jets. That was best in the NFL. So even in a perfect circumstance, it's not a great matchup for Brock Purdy. But then you get to the fact that, as Jay mentioned, he has looked terrible this preseason. We don't know how much of Brandon Ayuk he'll have. We don't know how much of Trent Williams he'll have. This doesn't feel great. Feels like if I'm Kyle Shanahan, this is a big Chris McCaffrey game. Try to just limit Brock Purdy, what he's doing, try to control the clock here and create mismatches. So don't love Purdy this week. He's my QB 16, outside my top 15 for the week.
Another element here, Jay, is that, you often say with Purdy, I wish he would run more, because when he does, it's very effective. It's hard to scramble against. Quincy Williams was an all-pro linebacker last year. He's maybe the fastest linebacker in the league. It just feels like Purdy could have a fine game for the Niners to win it, but from a fantasy perspective, his options here are severely limited.
Yep, and I just worry a little bit. I think Purdy was magnificent last year. I think Purdy's a very good quarterback who gets a really rough deal overall, but he did struggle against elite defenses last year in a way that I'm not sure that the way he plays is as resilient against great defenses as some of the other elite quarterbacks in the NFL. Against the Browns last year, outdoors, he was 12 of 27, really struggled in the rain. We all know what happened on Christmas Day against the Ravens, where he throws the 4 picks. He's 18 of 32. And I think the other elite defense that he played was probably Kansas City in the Super Bowl. He was fine in the Super Bowl, but he wasn't amazing. He was 23 of 38, and now he gets the Jets team that is very much in the caliber of those defenses. So this is a great test for Brock Purdy. Like, we're going to see, Primetime going up against Sauce Gardner and that defense. This is a great test. And with all that we've seen and with the concerns over Trent Williams and Brandon Ayuk, could get ugly.
The other quarterback here, Matthew, Dak Prescott, just a brutal draw for the Cowboys out of the gate, not only playing that Cleveland defense, but more importantly, maybe traveling to play at Cleveland.
Yeah, that's a key point. Dak Prescott so much worse on the road last year, where he averaged 16 fantasy points per game versus the almost 25 that he averaged at home last year. So significant difference between Dak at home versus Dak on the road. And now he's got to go to Cleveland against a defense that was elite last year, especially at home. Worth noting, they were top 2 in the NFL in terms of highest pressure rate, lowest yards per attempt allowed, and second lowest passer rating allowed. The other thing here is just on a narrative base, I don't think Dak's going to have to do that much to win this game. I don't think all of a sudden the Browns, under Deshaun Watson, who's also looked bad this preseason and may not be 100% healthy against an elite Cowboys defense, the Browns aren't going to be putting up tons of points in this one. So it's not like Dak is all of a sudden going to be like, I got to throw it 45 times because we got to put up 35 points. This is going to be an ugly, low-scoring game, and I think there's possibly a defensive touchdown for the Cowboys as well, or short field position. I just don't see Dak lighting up the Browns for a lot of reasons. So he makes the hate list this week. He's my QB 17.
Yeah, I think there were 2 games all season last year where Dak went on the road outdoors against a good defense. And what he did in those games, Buffalo towards the end of the season in a game that cost him the MVP, they had 3 points all game up until a garbage time touchdown with 3 minutes to go, 134 yards, 1 interception, no touchdowns. And then San Francisco, that earlier season game on Sunday Night Football, in that game, 153 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. Now, overall the season he was fantastic, but he did it against a lot of bad teams indoors a lot of the time too. I don't want to take too much away from Dak, because people like to beat up on Dak, and he was great last year, but this is going to be a test. This is as hard as it gets. If you could drop one matchup in a lab to make Dak Prescott look bad, probably outdoors on the road against Cleveland.
And guys, maybe the most underrated storyline of this game is, and I have a lot of faith in Tyler Guyton, their first-round pick for the long haul, but how long Tyron Smith has been there protecting Dak Prescott, keeping him upright. Now you have a young Dallas offensive line, specifically a tackle. Who do you get introduced to in the NFL? Myles Garrett.
How good do you think Guyton and BB are going to be from the start?
I think it's going to be a little bit of an up and down. He was somebody that he was originally an H-back at TCU. He transfers to Oklahoma, turns into a really good tackle prospect, but very athletic and gifted, and technique needed to be coached up. Dallas is excellent at coaching up raw offensive linemen, but I think of a couple years ago, Ike Ekwonu, who was a top 5 pick. He got introduced to the NFL by Myles Garrett. I think Myles Garrett had 2 sacks against him. Any rookie offensive line, this is the last guy you want to see. Especially, he's athletic enough, but but are you strong enough and technically sound enough out of the gate? That's a huge ask for anyone.
Yep. What about Cooper Beebe, who's going to be looks like starting at center?
He's the guy that I'm most excited about because you can run behind him. He's just so good in the phone booth. He can help out Rico Dowdle and Ezekiel Elliott get downhill, which is what they want this running game to be. So the Dallas offensive line is going to be in a good place. But when you're going from a Hall of Famer on that left side for that long to anyone else, it's tough. It's a tough bar to climb to.
Yep.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotorWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.